Welcome along, everybody. This is Sports 101, and this is the aftermath of the match day 2 of the Premier League weekend, as well as some other match day 1s of other leagues across Europe and in world football. Sammy Breward. I'm here with Kofi as well, and we'll be previewing, some of the games that have happened. Actually, we'll be having a post-match analysis of a lot of the games that happened over the weekend in this episode. So kindly stay tuned, subscribe, share our videos, follow us on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok, on all social media platforms. It's Sports 101. Over the weekend in the Premier League, Chelsea were big winners. Tottenham Hotspurs were also big winners in the league. Everton were also big winners as they had their first home game in their new ultra-modern stadium, and it was a sight to behold. A very, very big win over Brighton over the weekend. Chelsea had that 5-1 win over West Ham United. Is Enzo Maresca doing something really, really right with this Chelsea side after their initial draw in their opener in the league? Are we going to see Alejandro Garnacho finally make that move to Chelsea? This week being the last week of the transfer window. In other fixtures, as I said earlier on, we'll be delving into Tottenham Hotspurs. What Thomas Frank is doing really, really well with this Spurs team. They went to the Etihad and beat Manchester City by 2-0. We'll get deeper in that conversation about Pep Guardiola and how he's galvanizing his squad. Are we seeing a repeat of what happened last season for Manchester City? Is Pep a fraud, as the reports are saying? Is it the case that he cannot build teams? He just needs to splash the cash. We'll get into all those conversations. Manchester United, Reuben Amorim under fire as United failed to get 3 maximum points at Craven Cottage in Fulham over the weekend. United took that lead by an own goal in the second half from a Lenny Euro header, and allowed Emil Smith-Rowe to get that equalizer. We'll delve deeper into the balance of this Manchester United side. Are United good to go in the league? Do they look like they can have an improvement on what they had last season? What exactly is Reuben Amorim not getting right for this Manchester United side? So there are lots to discuss in the league. We'll go to Spain, discuss Real Madrid 3-0 winners over Real Oviedo away from home. Kylian Mbappe hitting the mark. He had a goal in the previous fixture in match week 1. He got another 2 yesterday in the league. Vinicius Jr. did not start that game. Rodrigo started that game. He was upset at the time he was substituted from that game. There are reports that he has instructed his agent to find him a new club just a couple of days to the end of the transfer window. We explore all those dynamics. Barcelona came back from 2-0 down to get that win over Levante in the La Liga. Barca 6 points, top of the La Liga, also doing really, really well in the league in Spain. We go to Italy as well. There were some interesting fixtures as AC Milan lost at home to a newly promoted side. They actually killed a lot of slips over the weekend. Napoli getting a good win over the weekend. And in Spain again, we'll talk about Atletico Madrid. Atletico Madrid are one of the teams that we have talked about a lot on Sports 101. So it is a packed show on Sports 101 today. We'll be getting into other conversations. We'll look at some of the transfers that will be happening. We'll talk about Alexander Isak as well, because tonight it's Newcastle against Liverpool. So we'll be previewing that game for you, our lovely subscribers. And so it's a packed show today on Sports 101. We'll get into a lot of conversations. Kindly subscribe, like, share, as I said earlier on, and then follow whatever discussions. Let's know your opinion in the comment section. Well, I'm here with Kofi, and we'll be starting the conversation from the English Premier League. It started on Friday, and it was Chelsea away to West Ham United. It was a 5-1 win for Chelsea. Enzo Maresca doing something really right.
Well, I think that we've spoken about Enzo Maresca I learned on this show, and we've spoken about the fact that what it is that Chelsea needs to be doing. I think that it was a good result for Chelsea. They played very well, especially after going down by an early goal. Superb goal, I should say, from Paqueta. Superb goal. I mean, the goalkeeper was in no man's land. He eventually had to place the ball in the nets. But I was very much happy, or very much I'm trying to find the right diction. I was very much excited about how Chelsea reacted going down by that early goal. I think that it shows you the depth of mentality that they have. I've always told people that the best teams in the world know that football is a moment game. So when your moments come, you do your best to maximize the moments. And I think that that's exactly what happened over the weekend, on Friday to be specific, when Chelsea had to visit West Ham. They just took West Ham to the cleanest, did their job, have the 3 points, their first 3 points of the season. After the first game, which was a draw with Crystal Palace, a lot of people, including myself, had to say some not too pleasant words about Chelsea, but I think that they answered all of their critics very well on Friday. That is not to say that is all should be. You understand? Because I feel that this is West Ham. West Ham themselves, they need a lot of self-introspection, because I look at West Ham, I look at the direction they are moving, I look at potentially the crisis they could find themselves in, and I think it was West Ham, yes, too early in the season, but I think they are headed for a crisis. Graham Potter looks like somebody who is out of his depth when it comes to managing a Premier League side, and I do not know what it is that he wants to implement at West Ham, but you realize from that game that they were missing key elements. There was no sense of cohesion about the team. There was total chaos at the way they defended. And in the last few years, you look at West Ham, you look at the managers who have managed West Ham and the heights that they have gotten to. Let's not forget that West Ham recently have been European champions. I mean, whichever division I think they won one of the lower conference league, or whichever division you want to look at it from. They are European champions. They did so by playing well defensively. They were very organized defensively, and they also were not too prolific in attack, but they picked their moments, and they had good players. But the issue I have with West Ham now is that they have a serious coaching problem, and then they do not have too much quality, especially going forward. And so those are the issues that I think that if West Ham do not address quickly before the transfer window closes, they might end up having to deal with those issues time without number. And so but I mean, but
you don't think it's a case of Chelsea being excellent in that game? You think it's rather West Ham United being very, very weak in the game?
Well, I think that you would want to balance the act. The measure of opposition that you get will tell everybody else whether the output that you gave was what was supposed to be or was worthwhile. You understand? I think that if you look at West Ham, yes, not to take away anything from the brilliance of Chelsea on the third day. I think the West Ham were absolutely poor on the third day, and that I honestly think that Chelsea, with all of the quality that they do have, with all of the personnel that they do have, with the experience that they have garnered playing under this manager, it wouldn't take West Ham playing at this level to derail them from doing what it was that was most important on the third day. Go there, play well, get the 3 points. They couldn't keep a clean sheet, but they got a 3 points. They considered just a goal. You understand? Yes. So for me, I think that those are dynamics that we need to look at. I think that as much as Chelsea were brilliant, West Ham themselves were absolutely very poor.
I think that I would give a lot of credit to this Chelsea side. irrespective of the fact that West Ham were poor in in that game, and even in the first game against Sunderland, they lost by 3 goals to 0. Your opening game of the season at home, you go down by 5 goals to 1. It's not really good for the fans. It's not good for the morale. But you have to applaud this Chelsea side. I think that they had a setback just before kickoff with the injury to Cole Palmer, and so they had to bring in Esteval to replace him. And look, I've talked about this gentleman. You might say he's overhyped and all of that, but I think he's a brilliant talent. We saw him in that game. We saw João Pedro play as a 10 from the beginning of that game, and it tells you that I think Enzo Maresca is also looking at how he can play some of these guys in different positions. A lot of people will say that João Pedro himself is not your typical number 9 like Liam Delap. So even last week we discussed it here that he would have a hard time playing both Pedro and Delap because of Cole Palmer.
Yeah.
Because if Cole Palmer is in the team, then obviously he has to play in that 10 role. So Maresca would have to choose between Delap and João Pedro. And in recent games, we've seen that Delap has been the one to be sacrificed for João Pedro to start up top. But I think it was solid from Chelsea. There are certain games that you expect Chelsea to win. They didn't just win, they won emphatically. And I think that big credit has to go to this Chelsea.
Well, I think that the point that you made emphasizes the point I also have had in private, that there is so much flexibility about this Chelsea team. The fact that if you have two number 10s who can play very well, João Pedro can play as a number 9, can play as a number 10. When Kopama is injured, I mean, we all know that in the last 2 seasons, he's been the primary facilitator for Chelsea, primary creator for Chelsea. So if he's injured, you can quickly bring in somebody who also has to operate in that natural domain. And I think that João Pedro comfortably did that against West Ham over the weekend on Friday. And then when you have a squad that is well thought through, yes, I still hold that belief that Chelsea do not have enough firepower to win the league. You understand? I mean, I think that if you look at the early pretenders, if you look at people who have stolen the lead at this point, you want to consider the kind of firepower they have and just oppose it with that of Chelsea. I still hold the strongest belief that Chelsea do not have enough firepower to, as it were, outweigh some of these rivals. But this is football. Anything could happen. You understand? The other rivals could have setbacks, major setbacks. If Chelsea are that consistent enough, even with the level of firepower they have, they could end up making some top grades over the course of the season. And who knows where it might land them when the season is finally over.
But in the early kickoff on Saturday, it was Manchester City against Tottenham, and that game was, in my opinion, I think that was the pick of the weekend. It was one game that we were expecting to see how Pep would, line up against this Tottenham side that have started the season very, very well. We saw how it ended.
It's clear, Sammy.
Was it
clear.
Tactical?
It's clear.
I
know. But I've always had my issues with Pep Guardiola. I think he should have walked away from the EPL last season.
Last season, yeah.
I think that he's overstayed his welcome. He has not proven that if he manages a team and they are successful, and then he needs to do a rebuild, he has not proven to be that man who can do that job, because he's not done it before. So I've always told people that the levels under which Pep Guardiola is running now, it's new grounds entirely for him. And if you look at City against Tottenham over the weekend, you'd realize that Pep got it wrong tactically. He absolutely got it wrong. Then, coming out from that game, there have been a lot of talking points. Some have even judged the quality of recruitment.
Okay.
Some have even looked at some of the players playing for City now. Are they really City standard? who supervise them. Listen, I mean, players like Erling Haaland, players like I'm trying to get this particular boy's name. Rico Lewis. You understand? Akanji. All of these boys, James Trafford, are they really worth the monies that City and Pep Guardiola had to spend on them? Because, listen, Erling Haaland is a fantastic goal scorer. He'll get the ball at the back of the net. But the point is, if he does not have that service coming to him, he is as irrelevant as any player you can come across.
Not the kind of attacker that creates
No. Robust. He lacks flair. He lacks control. He doesn't have anything.
Like your typical Aguero or Samuel Eto'o.
Exactly. I mean, these guys. At a point in time, we're looking at a rivalry between Haaland and Mbappe, and now it's clear as daylight. The winner will always be one. Like, my area boys tell me, Haaland not a player.
No, then.
He should be working at the port. He's built for that.
But this is the player that once he gets the service, he gets the ball at the back of.
No, but that's the point that you fail to realize. This is the EPL. Yes, a player can walk into the EPL. We all know what Haaland did in the first season. I mean, got a lot of goals, broke a lot of records. But the point is simple. Managers will start studying you. It beholds on you to evolve, or you'll be found out. And I feel that if you look at Erling Haaland, he's one-dimensional. There is nothing extra about him.
If you block the service that comes to
he's done. I can be a better number 9. He's done. He is done. And it leads to the question that people have asked. Does Pep Guardiola really improve players? Because I look at Erling Haaland, I look at his other brother, Doku. They are always running. For some strange reason, they appear on the TV always together. You understand? I look at all of these players at City. I look at the tactical disposition that Thomas Frank had to put up on the day. It looks like Spurs knew exactly what they were doing.
Because player for player, you could see that City individually had the better players.
But you look at the whole complexion of the game, Spurs were the better team. And Thomas Frank and his boys knew exactly. It was almost like they had played the game before they even stepped out onto the pitch.
Guardiola made a mistake with his goalkeeping department.
I think he has. And Ederson was having a good laugh on the bench. Because, I mean, if you are in any organization and they bring in somebody to replace you and you look at the guy and the guy is misbehaving all over the place and you ask yourself, oh, is that the guy who's supposed to be replacing me? That's the exact situation that you have with Ederson and Trafford. Trafford made absolute howlers. And for me, I look at...
Lucky not to be sent off.
I was lucky, obviously, not to be sent off. And I look at the system that Pep Guardiola wants to play. He wants to play from the back. He wants a ball-playing goalkeeper. He wants somebody who can control the game from the back. You look at all of these parameters, and you look at all of the things that were said about Trafford. And then he comes in. Yes, he gives you all of these wow moments. And now, the thing about football is that once you start doing those things, you start creating a lot of doubts in the heads of the central defenders. And now they lose a lot of confidence in you. And so if you do not have steady heads around the central defense and the goalkeeping department, then now you find a major piece of your game almost gone. Yeah. You understand? And I think that these are issues that Pep Guardiola needs to sort out quickly. People have spoken about the fact that you look at the middle, there was not enough creativity there. Come on, Omar Mamouche, where is he gone to?
This was a guy that came into the City side and he had a big impact from the beginning.
Exactly, but he's almost unrecognizable now. Irrecognizable now. So these are questions that Pep Guardiola needs to be answering. You understand? You look at the central defense. John Stones together with my other good friend from Portugal.
Yes.
All over the place. Yes. All over the place. Rico Lewis is not a right fullback. So I think that Pep Guardiola needs to think, and it's one of the reasons why when we did the preview, I thought that City were not going to win the league, because I look at the level of coaching now across the whole of the league. I look at the level of competition. I look at the fact that everybody is recruiting well. You understand? And I look at the quality. City have some very good players by name on their books. I think that as at now, it's only for educational purposes. Because I look at all of these names that are being pushed around. I mean, question is that if they were not a Pep Guardiola team, so many of them would not be able to walk into some of these top teams on the
You
land.
think that well, I think that the fact that Erling Haaland barely has competition for places in that team could be one of the reasons why he is not pushing himself enough. Pep is that manager that says he wants a thin squad because he doesn't want unhappy players. But if you have a number 9 who barely has another player competing
Challenging him,
for
yeah.
that number 9 slot, then he is an automatic selection to be in the team.
Yeah.
And so we saw chances that he had. It could be that he's low on confidence and things like that. But I think that has an impact on the team.
Well, I think one of the reasons Pep probably would not admit it publicly, but it was an error letting Alvarez leave to
Atletico.
yeah, to Atletico. It was clearly an error, because you look at Alvarez, you look at the dimensions that he brings. He's a striker unlike Erling Haaland. I've asked myself questions in private. Will Haaland start for Liverpool? Will he start for Arsenal on this level of form? I think that's, and you know Pep Guardiola is the darling boy of the English press and probably all of the presses across the world, and so nobody is going to ask questions. I'm pretty sure that if Amorim bought a goalkeeper like Trafford and he put in this kind of performance over the weekend, Manchester United will be all over the front pages of the major newspapers in the world, across the world. But it's Pep Guardiola. Everybody goes home happy.
So it's probably because, you know, when City had the likes of Kevin De Bruyne in good form, Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, Phil Foden, all these guys playing with a lot of form, we saw the best of Erling Haaland. But now here's a case where City do not really have a recognized player in that number 10 role. When I say recognized player, Pep tweaks the team a lot. He starts with Czeki. Sometimes he starts with a different player. Sometimes Mamouche comes in at some point. Mamouche started on the left before Doku came in.
Yeah.
And so that solidity is not really there. So could it be that he's still trying to find his best team? We saw the return of the Ballon d'Or winner, Rodri.
Yeah.
We saw his return. We saw Phil Foden also coming. I think the bright spark for City at the moment has to be Tijani Rangers in midfield. Even at the back, City still do not look
Confident.
solid.
Yeah.
Apart from the goalkeeping department,
Central defense.
defense is still a problem. We saw Nuri go off injured.
Yeah.
Rico Lewis is the other fullback. So I don't know what exactly the challenges are, but it brings us to that question of developing players, making players better. I'm not seeing that with Manchester City. I don't understand the system that Pep Guardiola is playing at the moment. Maybe it could be just a slow start at the beginning of the season. It could be that that's the case. It could be they would improve. It could be they could get better. But from what we saw against Spurs, when teams apply the pressure on this Manchester City side, we saw what Spurs did. Even with that second goal, the high press, you have about 3 or 4 players on the edge of the penalty area. They know City want to play from the back.
Yeah.
And so when you decide to play from the back, then the press begins. And so you bring a goalkeeper from the Championship who probably is not used to the intensity of the Premier League, and you throw him in at first ask when you have the experience of Edison there. So you never know what Pep is thinking. He did the same thing to Joe Hart. We'll see whether he still sticks with the same goalkeeper over the weekend. Yeah. But I think that he's more like the darling boy of English football. Look, if he had to do with any other manager,
nobody
I
talks
think
about. Nobody
fine.
likes to take Pep Guardiola on. Nobody likes to take Pep Guardiola on. But I honestly think he's done. I think he's done. I think his days are numbered. And if Spurs can go there and play fearlessly, like they did against City, they were the better team for most stretches of the game. Yes, in the second half, they had to close shop and allow City to just come at them. But they always knew that City would not be able to break them down defensively, so they sat back comfortably, absorbed everything City threw at them, and then hit City on the break sporadically. I think that if Tottenham can go to the Etihad and give the levels of display that they did, then I wonder what the Arsenals, the Liverpools, maybe by extension the Chelseas will be thinking, because City look like a side that is there for the taking.
Do they need Donnarumma?
They don't. I think that Pep Guardiola needs to swallow his pride.
Obviously, and he doesn't want to play Edison.
Yeah, swallow your pride and play Edison. Edison is PL tested. He is a full Brazilian international. He has the qualities. He's seen teams he's been part of teams that have dominated the PL. You understand? So when you have a good goalkeeper who gives you that level of assurance, your job is half done. If you have Edison in your goal, yes, he does make occasional mistakes. You understand? But he's a solid goalkeeper. He's somebody you can count on. I mean, put Thiago aside, play him. Let Trafford be his understudy. You don't make that role the reverse. I mean, once you make it that role the reverse, you are in for a big trouble.
Well, another coach that is under fire to win the Premier League this season has to be Mikel Arteta. And Mikel Arteta, 5-star performance from Arsenal at the Emirates against Leeds United that started the season quite well in their first game. Arsenal blew them away. 5-0. And interestingly, we saw Victor Gyökeres getting a break in that game, a brace in that game.
But he missed some very, very important chances.
But it's important for his confidence when you come in. You could see the pressure that he had on him to kickstart his Arsenal career. He wanted to score goals. The chances he had where he could have taken his time and just buried the ball, but he was in a hurry to put the ball in the back of the net, so he made certain mistakes. But I think that Arsenal, again, getting set-piece goals, they had 2 from that game, and it's a big part of their game now. I am looking at this Arsenal side, and look, they have a very, very balanced team. I say this over and over again, that Arsenal have the most balanced team in the Premier League.
They actually have the best team in the PL.
I don't know about their bench. I don't know about what they have off the bench, but that first 11 that Arsenal has to be the most balanced team.
Arsenal has serious quality on their bench. I mean, on a normal day, you have Kai Havertz on your bench. On a normal day, you have Gabriel Jesus on your bench. You have Eberechi Eze on your bench. You have all of these guys on your bench. You understand? You have Trossard. You understand? These are game winners, legitimate game winners. And so it goes back to the comment that you passed, that if after Christmas Arsenal are not leading the league, then Mikel Arteta needs to be fired. Because I look at Arsenal now, and they have no reason not to win the league. We have just heard after the signing of Eze that Mikel Arteta has broken the £1 billion bracket. He's gone beyond £1 billion in transfers
since he joined us now.
Yes, since he joined us now, he's gone over the £1 billion bracket. So if a manager who has been there for 7 years broken the transfer 1 billion, has gone beyond that threshold, then you should be expecting big things from him. You understand? The only worry I have for Arsenal now under Mikel Arteta is that they seemingly are losing their tradition or their identity. This Arsenal team does not play like Arsenal teams of old. You know, Arsenal and the Wenger, they had this charm offensive about them. Play the kind of football the purist wants them to play. I mean, aesthetically pleasing football. This Arsenal team is ragged. They are built for war. They like to sacrifice everything aesthetic for performance. And you cannot fault them. Because I think that Mikel Arteta already knows that the pressure is on him to deliver major trophies this season. So I was not too surprised Arsenal had to blow away Leeds United. You know, when you want to win the league title, teams like Leeds are teams that you have to dispatch quickly. Promoted teams have come to the league, dispatch 5-0. Do not give them a feel of what it is to compete. Don't give them that leverage. So I look at the goals that Gokare scored. First goal, took it very well. Second goal, had to score from the penalty spot. Justin Timber getting goals over there. It also makes the dynamics interesting that when you come up against Arsenal, they could have a plethora of players who could find the back of the net. And so when you're a coach, it leaves you with that level of conundrum. You do not know who it is that has to be marked. And I think that it makes that level of unpredictability about Arsenal go a notch higher. And all of these are going in favor of Arsenal. You understand? So, very good win over there. I think it was quite an emphatic statement. Yes, they have had a major injury scares. I mean, we are hearing Saka is injured. We are hearing Odegaard is injured. But the good thing is that now they have enough cover. There is Noni Madueke if Saka does go off. There is Eze if Odegaard does go off. So you look at the depth of squad that Mikel Arteta has been able to build. He has no excuse but
and they have a solid goalkeeper. As I said,
Raya is so underrated. Raya is world class. David Raya is world class. I told you that when Mbeumo headed that ball, I knew that was the equalizer. That Raya took it out. I put him in the top 4 best goalkeepers now, straight in the world.
Well, Arsenal have no excuse than to win the Premier League this season. Mikel Arteta has started really, really well with his Ghana side. They unveiled Eberechi Eze at the Emirates over the weekend. So we're hoping to see more from Arsenal this season as the games unfold. But to Craven Cottage, it was under pressure. Reuben Amorim and his Manchester United side going away from home, expected to kick their season started. Well, they took the lead in that game and succumbed to an equalizer from Emil Smith-Rowe. It's been a barrage of questions concerning how Amorim set up his side, what exactly it is with this Man United side. Is the team not balanced enough? Does United need to go into the transfer window with a few days to end the season? We still saw some weaknesses from the goalkeeper. We saw Onana on the bench. We saw Bayende still not so comfortable with area balls in his penalty area. We saw how Bruno fared in midfield. We saw some of these things. At some points, we saw Casemiro go off and Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes in midfield. I am looking at this United side. There's so many questions than answers.
Well, I am convinced that the problems of Manchester United are spiritual. Nobody can convince me otherwise that the problems of Manchester United are not spiritual. And I know that the people who are watching us.
So who is doing United?
I don't know. Maybe United need to take 10 cows and 20 sheep to somewhere. I do not know.
Somebody has thrown United medicine.
Because you see, because you see, what is happening to United, I do not understand. Because you watch yesterday's game, and I tell people that The difference between Manchester United and the very top teams in the world is the level of execution. Football is all about converting the chances that come your way.
Started really well in the game.
I am telling you that if Manchester United were at that level, game would have been done in 20 minutes. You kill the game in 20 minutes. Do not give Fulham any foothold to think that they can even compete with you. You look at the chances that United created in the first 20 minutes, how they came out of the blocks quickly. Cunha getting those chances very early on, and some of the things that happened. I think that it goes back to the whole mentality thing. Yes, there are structural problems with Manchester United. Obviously, we'll deal with those issues. I mean, issues with whether Bruno Fernandes should be played as a central midfielder. Should the coach revert to the 4-2-3-1. Some people have said that the coach needs to ditch the 3-4-3 formation, go back to the 4-2-3-1, where you have Kobe Mainoo and Casemiro probably being the anchors in the midfield. Then you have Bruno played in the number 10, flanked by Mbeumo and then Cunha, and then you have Sesko playing ahead of them. You understand? There are all of these things that you need to talk about, but I think that there is something systematically wrong with Manchester United. And for me, it's the pressure that comes with playing for Manchester United. Sami, you have no idea the kind of weight of expectations that people like Mbeumo, Cunha, Sesko have on their shoulders. This is Manchester United. Everybody wants to talk about them. Everybody wants to have a piece about them, because the moment you start talking about Manchester United, you are almost launching into stardom. So, one, the players have all of this history they need to deal with. And you know, they do not just have this history to deal with, but you look at the weight of expectation. Because this is a club that has tried so many things, is seemingly not worked, and they have brought you in to change a certain narrative. So the players have come in, they want to do a lot of things, they want to change a lot of things, they want to impress. And I think that at a point, somebody needs to step in and then make all of this doom and gloom go away. Because I think that Manchester United are under a case. And I say this seriously.
I need a contract.
Yeah, I think they do.
Spiritual cleanse.
Maybe they need to come to Aseke. There are people at Aseke who can help United through all of it. Because for me, the other problem is the fan base. They expect a lot of things too quickly. Toxic fan base.
But the fans have been used to success for so long. And
that is the point. That is the point. That is the point. I think that under Alex Ferguson, United fans became cocky, they became arrogant, they became untouchable, and they become, forgive my words, spoilt brats. This is a fan base that does not really understand the reality of Manchester United now. The reality of Manchester United now, yes, I mean, Sammy, we can sit here, make a lot of noise. But the point is that for United to make that leap into the top 4, top 5, it will require some level of consistency. It will require some level of patience. We are talking about the best league in the world, and it's not easy to make that jump at once. You understand? So these are the dynamics that United needs to be dealing with, and for me, I feel sorry for all of the characters available at Manchester United right now, because I think that the level of expectation from the fan base, the weight of expectation, I feel sorry for players like Mbeumo, for Cunha, for Sesko. I mean, under any ordinary conditions, they will be allowed to settle down and do their things. But this is Manchester United. Everybody wants them to hit their stride quickly, you understand? But I am firmly convinced that United are on the right path. You understand? And there were moments in the game yesterday, and for me, I think the coach also needs to take a bit of the blame. You understand? I mean, players like Dalot, do not allow them to come near the team bus. Dalot has been at United for 7 years.
He was practically at fault for that equalizer.
Exactly the point.
How he received the ball.
Why do you take that ball and try to do a 360 turnaround? You do not have that level of skill. If you're a defender, your first modus operandi is to clear the ball away. So, you know, all of and the back stops at the doorstep of the coach. I mean, because you made a change, you changed Ahmad, you brought on Dalot for Dalot to commit that mistake. I think that Luke Shaw was a tad late, tracking his marker, Smith Rowe. You understand? But I look at all of these dynamics, and I think that Amorim still has a lot of job to do. And for me, if he really wants to succeed, he needs to quickly imprint on his players that killer mentality. When you have the chances, you kill the game, you manage the game. That is what is exactly lacking with United right now. And I think that until they do that, they are going to be in trouble.
I think a lot rests on the doorstep of the coach, that's Reuben Amorim. And look, I don't think that United have bad players. You don't get to change your entire front three, spending about £200 million, and you don't get the results. I said this at the start of the season, that it will be of no good to Man United if they change their front line and they still don't sort out issues in the middle and in goalkeeping department. You can score as many goals as you want, but you equally concede as many goals. That's why United ended last season on a negative goal difference. Now, I'm not going to be one of those that would say that the coach has to, change the formation, change the system, and blah blah. That's what he believes in. But when you have that belief, then you need to have the right mechanism to make it work. As it stands, United do not have that right mechanism to play that 3-4-2-1 formation. That's what I think. You could have the two number 10s there. You could have Šeško up top. A lot of people were talking about the fact that why didn't he start Šeško? He's trained about 2 weeks with the team. What are you waiting for? Every other team that has brought in new strikers are playing their strikers, but he talked about adaptability and all of that. I don't know where that is coming from. I feel that he should have started Šeško with his presence and all of that. But again, even if he has started him, United need to be burying chances. Now, United is that team that have so much when it comes to number 10s. You have spots for options when it comes to having number 10s. There's Mbeumo, there's Cunha, there's there's Ahmad as well. There's Bruno Fernandes, there's Mason Mount. These guys are all number 10s. So it's gotten to the point where, okay, now because you're sports for options, you are forced to play some of these players out of position. So you have Ahmad playing as a wing back. Yes, Ahmad is your typical winger. He can play as a 10, but he's not a wing back. We saw how he suffered in that game. You're not getting the best out of him. The only way Reuben Amorim can get the best out of this team is that he cannot fit everybody into the starting 11. If you want to fit all your best players in this 11, then he has to change his formation.
You think he needs to change his formation?
I am somebody that I believe in. When you have a conviction, you stick to it. Yes, at some point you can change your mind, but you need to look at the material available to him. With what United have, playing this system would always be a problem.
You think he needs to revert to the 4-3-2?
He needs to. If he had the right material, for example, you have United are lacking in midfield. Look, Spurs, the team United played, Fulham,
yeah.
They had that extra man in Iwobi.
Yeah.
A lot of teams in the Premier League play with a 3-man midfield.
Yeah.
The league has evolved.
Yeah.
There were times when you had two in the middle.
Yeah.
You had the 6 and the 8. You had the Vieira and then Dennis Bergkamp. You had the Scholes and then the Keane or Carrick. You had all these guys there, you had the Makelele or and the Frank Lampard, or an Essien and the Frank Lampard. You had all that. Now it is basically a 3-man midfield. So if you are playing with wing backs and you have just the two in midfield, which is Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes, and one originally is not even playing in his preferred position, that's why you always get to see Bruno out of position a lot of times. Now you take out Casemiro and you bring in another number 10 to play in that central midfield role. So now you have 4 number 10s in the game at the same time. So you have Bruno and Mason Mount playing in central midfield.
Yeah, cool.
Then he took out Mason Mount. You bring on Ugarte, who at the moment I don't think is that guy. So United need proper central midfielders. The only way United can fit in all these guys is if they change formation. That's the 4-2-3-1 you talked about. So you need to sacrifice one center half, play 4 at the back. You can play your 2 holding midfielders. Then you can have Bruno, Mbeumo, and Cunha playing in their preferred position, and you have a Sesko up top.
Do you see that ever happening?
I don't, because of the personality that we are dealing with at the moment. But if United can get that midfield issue sorted out, and you have the right players to play in that midfield position, then you can get the best out of that formation.
Well, there's a school of thought that seeks to think that why doesn't Amorim play a variation of the 3-4-2-1 or the 3-4-3, as people would want to put Flali, and then probably align with the 4-2-3-1, and then probably after the season is gone, you can go out, bring all the players that you want to bring in, and then go full throttle with your the formation that you want to go with, because the best players in the world are tactically flexible. We've seen what Xabi Alonso is trying to do with this Real Madrid team for so long a time. This Real Madrid team has been a 4-3-3, 4-4-2 at a certain time, 4-2-3-1 under Carlo. You understand? He's come in, changed the mentality, and it looks like they are all being whipped in line. So I think you make a solid point. At the moment, the only person who looks tactically flexible enough to play the defensive midfield role, or the role of the central attacking midfielder or central midfielder, has to be Kobe Menu.
Because Kobe Menu is fighting for the same position as
with Bruno.
It's already difficult playing with a 2, let alone playing with a 2-man midfield that, you have one of them not originally suited to that role.
I get you. United are always going to run,
and that's the reason why other teams will always have that extra man in
the midfield
over Man United.
Well,
because you need players with legs to play the system.
I get the point you make, and I think you make a very good point. But I think that United need to sort out their excesses quickly, because this is a brutal league. The league will not wait for you to adapt, and that is one lesson that Amorim needs to learn quickly. And I think that yesterday in his post-match interview, he mentioned something about growing up to the United boys, and I think that some of the boys in the dressing room also need to take that level of responsibility, because for me, whichever formation that you play with, if you are better in terms of personnel than the opponent, you go out there, make your mark quickly, and when you do make your mark, then you can manage the game from that point. I think that's all United should have done. First 20 minutes, kill the game, allow. And then one other thing is that I think that they need to realize that they play with boys who like to feed on the energy that comes from the midfield quickly. In Mbeumo, Cunha, they like the ball released to them quickly. It look like when United are in possession, sometimes they are too slow. I mean, for the proper effectiveness of having those two players around, and when Sesko does join in eventually. But I think Fulham played. It was a game of 2 halves. Fulham played the second half very well. They deserved the equalizer. The draw seemed a very fair point.
Well, it's Sports 101. Let us know what you think. United fans, do Man United need to make signings before the end of the season. That midfield area, is this still a priority for Man United? At the end of the day, that United also need to bring in another goalkeeper. What happens to Onana? What happens to Bayenge? What do you think, Man United fans? Let us know in the comment section on Sports 101 on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok, wherever you want to find us. We are there on social media. But we're also having our FPL running. It's Sports 101. You can follow the Sports 101 FPL. The code is on the screen. Just look at it and then join the FPL. There's an amazing prize of 3,000 Ghana cedis at the end of the season. So just pick the code from the screen and then join the Sports 101. As it stands now, I'm last by one. Can you imagine? I started match week 2. Lucky is just behind me. Lucky is down there. He's in last position. So so join the Sports 101 FPL challenge. Fantasy Premier League. The code is on the screen, and the discussion continues, Kofi. In the Bundesliga, Erik ten Hag lost his first game. Bayern Munich, runaway winners, they won emphatically, but Erik ten Hag lost his first game in the Bundesliga at home.
Erik ten Hag, what a conundrum. They scored the first goal, eventually lost, and the Kwanzaa guy from Liverpool scored the goal, and eventually they had to lose that game. I think that stepping into the shoes of Xabi Alonso comes with all of the pressure. Ordinarily, it shouldn't be so, because you'd want to look at the career paths of the two managers and you want to think that Erik ten Hag is very experienced. He should be able to maneuver all of the little things that comes with managing a top side, you understand? But because he's Erik ten Hag, because he's had an association with Manchester United, because he's stepping in for a guy who did so much for the club in the shortest period of time, he's obviously going to be under the limelight. And there wasn't a better way he could have started the defense, the reign of his managerial position at Leverkusen by losing at home. I think that it puts a lot more pressure on him. But you look at, for example, you look at somebody like Vincent Kompany, and the fact that Bayern Munich played against Leipzig. Mm-hmm. They blew Leipzig away by 6-0. You understand? I mean, I look at Luis Diaz. I look at the other French boy who used to play for Crystal Palace.
Michael
Olise. I look at the fact that Harry Kane had a hat-trick. I think that I've always said that some teams are not just built domestically. Bayern is built for the Champions League, because domestically it would take something special from a Dortmund or from a Leverkusen, something consistent and special from those teams to usurp them domestically. So teams like PSG, teams like Bayern Munich, I think their bigger focus is on the Champions League. And Bayern Munich look like they have put an assembly of very good players together. And for me, not too surprising, the way they blew away Leipzig. If Leipzig can be blown away in this manner, then you'd want to think what will be the fate of the other lesser teams in the Bundesliga. But very good results for Bayern over the weekend. Terrible results for Erik ten Hag to begin his reign as manager of Leverkusen. Terrible.
But something we don't want to see in football, at St. Pauli, Borussia Dortmund went away, played a 3-3 draw. They were 3-1 up at some point. Job Bellingham was substituted in that game at halftime. And there are reports that his parents actually went to the dressing room to confront coach Niko Kovac as to why their son was substituted in that game. This is something we don't want to see in football.
I've always said that clubs need to clearly spell out what is and is not that other people, third-party persons, can do in the confines of running the club. You understand? And you will not see this happening to any elite football team. No, you will not see this happening at Real Madrid. You will not see even this happening at Manchester United. You will not see this happening at Barcelona. You will not see this happening at Liverpool. Dortmund is a very big team. I am surprised that they would allow some parents to hold them to ransom.
I hear they've been banned from the dressing room.
all of this is happening because of Jude Bellingham. Because Jude Bellingham did something special with Borussia Dortmund, and that because Jude is his brother. All of a sudden, parents feel they have a sense of entitlement by reason of what their elder son did a couple of years ago. And for me, it's the right call by Borussia Dortmund. It shouldn't have happened in the first place. It shouldn't have. Yeah. And shame on the Bellinghams. Because you do not do this at any top level elite European club. Very, very terrible that we have had to discuss this openly. And for me, I think it's a terrible example. This is Ghana Premier League standard. And for me, I do not think that this is something that has to be associated with the Bundesliga.
Well, in the Spanish league, it was quite interesting at the Spanish league. Barcelona looked like they were about to suffer their first league loss of the season away from home, Levante. They went 2-0 down in the first half, came back 3-2 win. I was very impressed. We saw Rashford start that game.
He
still has some
adaptation
to do at Barcelona.
Well, he started that game. But played well. I think the whole of the team did not really play well. And Levante went 2 goals up. I was excited because I really had a lot of things to say for reasons best known to me. But Hansi Flick, very good coach. He makes 2 changes and instantly turns the game on its head. Those 2 changes come on, and you realize that Barcelona are a newly born team. Okay. And there is something you can choose not to like about Barcelona, but the fact remains that in Hansi Flick, they have somebody who knows their job. Hansi Flick, top manager. We often forget that, around the COVID time when Bayern Munich had to beat Barcelona by 8-2, he was the manager of Bayern Munich when they went on to win the Champions League in the COVID era. Yeah. He was manager of Bayern Munich. And Hansi Flick has become Hansi Flick because he's not just a good coach, but he's good at managing young talent. And so you look at the current crop of Barcelona players, you look at the changes that he made, you look at the players that he brought on. I felt sorry for Levante in the end because they had to be undone by an own goal. You understand? But it was as a result of the pressure Barcelona kept putting on them. Yeah. Eventually had to do with a cross from Lamine Yamal, and then the guy had to score an own goal. Schools of thought have it that something happened in the dressing room.
Nothing happened in the dressing room.
Something happened in the dressing room. But it was an incredible show off by Barcelona. Yeah. They have once again shown that even if they are going to be accepted, they will not go away easily. Because this was a certain game that they should have dropped points. Yeah. But the best teams in the world keep going, and they keep making their own luck. And I think that's exactly what Barcelona showed over the weekend.
Well, I was in no doubt that Barcelona would come back and then get something from that game. But talking about dropping points, Atletico Madrid, again, disappointing from them. 1-1 at home in a game that they were expected to win.
There's nothing sure about Atletico Madrid again. There's nothing sure about them. I think if Manchester United are in a spiritual crisis, Atletico Madrid are more difficult.
Does it bring us back to that conversation that the manager has overstayed?
I think yes. I honestly think yes. And I think that maybe they're waiting for something spectacular to happen. But I think this overstayed is welcome. Luis, what was his name?
The Atletico manager, Diego
Simeone. I think that you look at his posturing on the bench, you look at the attitude of his players, you look at the body language. I think that there comes a point in time where people at the top helm of affairs, when it comes to the club, need to make certain bold decisions. And I think that Atletico Madrid are at that threshold where they need the top people to make those decisions. They are not moving in the right direction, in my candid opinion. One team I've been impressed about has to be Villarreal. I mean, last season they were on and off. Eventually, I think finished in the top 4.
Yes.
But you look at Villarreal this season; they look a side totally reborn. Yeah, I mean, Girona themselves. I'm surprised at the level of fall.
Yeah.
You understand? Because a couple of seasons ago, they were one of the darling clubs all across Europe. Not just because of the kind of football that they played, but because of the results that they chalked. But Girona do not look like the same team that took the La Liga by storm. And I am happy for Villarreal. It looks like something right is happening to them. They are getting good results over the week in, week out. Sorry, this just could be match day 2, but I think the coming events do cast their shadows. They look to be in strong position for another top 4 finish.
Is Xabi Alonso beginning to get his right team put together? We saw them away at Real Oviedo. Yeah. Is it that okay? It was a game that we all expected that Real Madrid would win, but tactically we saw the system he played. We saw that Vinicius started from the bench. We saw that Rodrigo actually started that game. He came off. He was upset. Alonso is still trying to find his best team, but they got the result over the weekend.
Lucky's friend had to play. Mostentano.
Yes.
Mostentano had to play. And I think that he put in quite zealous performance. And I have been impressed by some characters at Real Madrid. Tchouaméni.
Yeah.
It looks like the coach finds himself in Tchouaméni. You know, Xabi Alonso was one of the most fantastic DMs of his generation. I mean, I think that he's tried to communicate to Tchouaméni. He's found an important role for him in the team. You know, under Carlo Ancelotti, Tchouaméni was the guy who was becoming the jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
Because every time now and then when they had a crisis in central defense, he would go on and slot in at the central defensive position. But you look at him, you look at the role he plays, and you want to juxtapose, because Alonso plays a system like Amorim, wants to play a system like Amorim, because that's what he did play at Leverkusen. And in that system, like we've spoken about at length, the central the midfield has to be a crucial role. You look at Tchouaméni, look at Real Madrid's first goal. He makes that sliding tackle, wins the ball, passes the ball to an opponent, to a teammate. The teammate gets the ball, passes the ball quickly into the feet of Mbappe. With just a turn, Mbappe is exposed and is left with just the goalkeeper. Yeah. Slots it at the back of the net. Game over. Because you look at the points that Madrid had to get the goal. Tension was building up. They were getting the chances. Probably doubts were beginning to creep in. That, okay, is this one of those games that we walk away with the nearly tag? You understand? But in that split moment, with that tackle by Tchouaméni, releasing the ball, 3 touches, they are in the opponent's box. The ball is at the back of the net. And for me, Real Madrid look like they are still in preseason. And luckily for them, I think that the fixture list has been kind. You understand? I mean, having to play against Osasuna and then now Real Oviedo. Is it Oviedo?
Oviedo.
Yeah. Now Real Oviedo. They still get a chance to as it were, try some few things.
They're playing home to Mallorca next.
It looks like a winnable. Mallorca were one of the teams that really troubled Real Madrid last time. You understand? But you look at the kind of football that Xabi Alonso wants to play and the kind of system that he wants to implement at Real Madrid. I think that the fixture list has also been kind to them. They are beginning to find their rhythm. But one thing is clear: Kylian Mbappe is a special player. He is a special player. And yes, we might probably have Ousmane Dembele walk away with the Ballon d'Or this time around. But I think that if Real Madrid are going to go this trajectory and Kylian Mbappe is going to go this trajectory, it's only long before time that he finds himself on that podium.
Yeah, and quickly, in the Italian Serie A, it was Napoli going away to Sassuolo to win by 2-0. 2 goals from Kevin De Bruyne and Scott McTominay, continuing from where he ended last season. AC Milan, this time around, disappointing once again. They messed up a lot of slips. Luka Modric making his competitive debut for Milan. They lost 1-2 to Cremonese at home. Roma won Bologna 0 in the Italian Serie A. And well, yesterday it was still some interesting results we had from the Serie A. It was Cagliari 1, Fiorentina 1, Como continuing the form that they ended last season with by beating Lazio by 2-0. Atalanta
Fabregas is doing something amazing.
Doing something really well.
With Como,
Atalanta 1-1 draw with newly promoted Pisa. And Juventus 2, Parma 0. The Italian Serie A is shaping up really well.
Well, shaping up nicely. I think the defending champions Napoli.
Inter playing today against Torino.
Defending champions Napoli doing what they do best. McTominay continuing off from where he left off last season, and then Kevin De Bruyne getting that good goal over there. Some would want to call it a cross. Missed everybody. Ball ended up at the back of the net. I think that it was a good win for them. Sassuolo themselves in the Serie B last season, I think they won the Serie B last season, played very well. But you know, when you make that leap from the Serie B to the elite division, you need to embrace fully all of the challenges that come with it. And maybe they met Napoli too early in their journey back to the Serie A. And so the golfing class was quite apparent. It showed, you understand. I am not too surprised about Como. Como are running a very effective model. They are playing very well. They have a very young, good coach in Cesc Fabregas. They understand where it is that they want to be. And so you look at the fact that in their number 10, the guy who came from Real Madrid, a lot of people are flirting signing him, but Como have held their resolve. They say he's not for sale. He's integral to everything that Como wants to do. And I think they are playing some very good football over there. Juventus also had to labor a bit to the 2-0 win. Beat Parma 2-0 eventually. One result that was quite disappointing had to be drawing at home by Atalanta. But I think that once again, I think that with the Italian Serie A, the usual pretenders will be there. There will be Inter Milan. There will be Napoli. There could be Atalanta. You understand? I do not see AC Milan competing this time around. I think that they do not have that kind of depth to go the whole of the season. But it should be fine also in this season.
But talking about Como, there's been reports about Tottenham,
wanting
preparing
to bid for
bid about 70 million euros for Nico Paz. Yes, and it's been turned down emphatically. He's a solid player.
Yes, solid player from Real Madrid's Castilla.
Yes. Finally, before we wrap up, it is Newcastle United against Liverpool tonight at the St. James's Park. For me, it's all about the fans. It's the banter. It is everything, and it's more like the battle for Alexander Isak.
Well, I think Liverpool have not treated themselves with a lot of class during this whole Isak thing. They may want to play the devil's advocate, but they have been the primary instigators of everything.
There's nothing wrong in being interested in a player.
Fantastic. But if, all along, Newcastle have stated emphatically that there's a price that they need to pay for Isak if they do want him. And Liverpool are flirting around the price, trying to cajole the player into making that decision eventually. I mean, we saw the statements that were released by both parties. I think it was quite infantile on the side of Isak to have released that particular press statement.
He says they were agreements.
No, nobody accedes to those agreements. You understand? Because I am also hearing from Alan Shearer that when he signed that contract extension 3 years ago, he was signed a contract extension with no release clauses. So now it's their word against the club's word. You get the point I'm making. So that's the conundrum that we find. Yes, I mean players grow, they want to evolve, they want to get out of their situation, they want to take on higher heights.
It feels like if it doesn't make that move now, it's going to be difficult.
Yes, but you need to be savvy, you need to be tactical, you need to be diplomatic. That's why I think that his
like
agent,
what Eze did.
yes, like what Eze did. Yes, I mean, I think that his agent has not helped him in all of this discussion. I mean, because everything goes down to the agent and the sort of communicate he has to the player and the sort of actions and inactions or otherwise he wants the player to be taken. So I think that Isak has not handled the whole situation very well, and I find it a bit problematic, the kind of thing that he's gotten himself into, because I mean this is a World Cup year, and Newcastle have been resolute in their stance that he's not going to be for sale. Worst case scenario, you play with the under 18th. You have 3 years left on your contract. Let's see who suffers. You understand? So I think that he could have gone about it in a whole different way. That couldn't have
going on strike.
Exactly. I mean, going on strike, issuing that particular statement on his Insta page, and
could it be that Liverpool would have let him down if they end up not signing him because he did that because he wanted to join Liverpool? If there's actually a price tag, and Newcastle United have put out the price tag, then Liverpool need to meet that price tag. If not, they would have let Isak down.
Obviously. I mean, I sit here in Ghana and I know that Newcastle have put a price tag of £150 million on Isak, Alexander Isak. So if you want the player,
is he worth
tabled,
is he worth it?
I think he is. I mean, if your friend at Liverpool is worth 130 million euros, why is Isak not worth 150? Exactly the point. Why is Isak not worth 150 million pounds? Strikers are the hottest commodities in world football. And there's a reason why strikers have constantly broken the bank.
At the end of everything, if he ends up not making that move by this weekend, does he find a way to get himself integrated into the squad? How does it look at his teammates in the eyes? How is he comfortable training with them? Because the point he's made clearly is that I am better than being here. I want to move a notch higher. I am at a higher level than here. So you are communicating to your teammates that they are not on the same level as you are if you are forcing that move to a bigger club. So if that doesn't work out, how do you go back and then get yourself integrated into the squad?
Well, I think it's a big problem. It is a big problem.
It definitely affects the dressing room.
Yes, it does affect the dressing room. And for me, football is a team sport. And there's no way one single player, yes, irrespective of the fact that you could be that prima donna or that top alpha male in the squad, there's no way one player can lead a team entirely to victory. You understand? So it demands a lot of effort from the other teammates. And once you put yourself in that entrenched position, it becomes difficult reintegrating. But the good thing is that it looks like the wording of Newcastle's statement was quite embracing, and that if he does, yes, I mean, if he does, I think that Newcastle have acted very maturely and professionally in all of this saga, and the wording was quite embracing. I think that if Isak does change his mind, which looks like he should, you understand, if he does change his mind and wants to walk back into that dressing room, it would take some level of courage from him. He needs to apologize to his teammates. He needs to apologize openly to the fans. You understand? Because Newcastle is not a small team.
Because the fans will rebel today.
Yes. I mean, Newcastle, they are a big team. I mean, they are one of the most famous grounds in English football.
The Wardens have cut out
So
Newcastle and Liverpool.
But this particular game will be fiery. I mean, you look at all of the things that have happened in the background. You want to translate this. This was a Nunes fixture. For some strange reason, Nunes always liked it against Newcastle. Yeah, he had a way of playing against Newcastle. But I think that it should be a fiery encounter tonight. And I think Newcastle will go out there to prove a point. It will be a battle of the strong.
What's your prediction for this game?
I see a draw written all over this game.
So Liverpool are dropping points.
Liverpool drop points tonight.
Well, let's know what your predictions are for tonight's games. The Athletic Bilbao also has a game tonight in the Spanish La Liga, but the main talking point is Newcastle United against Liverpool. The Liverpool fans, let us know what you think about the Alexander Isak saga. Whether Liverpool still need to go all out for him, and then whether Liverpool still need him in the squad, whether Newcastle United would be the bigger loser if Isak leaves or he stays, because they'll still need to cover his wages. It's been Sports 101 here, and as I said earlier on, let's know what your opinions are in the comment section. Like the video, subscribe, share. We're on TikTok, we're on Facebook at Sports 10ONE, and then we are on YouTube as well. Don't forget, the Fantasy Premier League is still on. You can get the code on the screens and enjoying the Sports 101 Fantasy Premier League. There's an amazing prize of 3,000 Ghana cedis to win at the end of the season. Lots of guys are already in the lead. Some of us are still down there, but we are playing catch up to some of the big boys leading the Sports 101 FPL. And so it's been another interesting episode here. We look forward to seeing you in our next edition.